And what was the most important thing that you learned out of that?
Yeah. So and I don't know if you knew that I survived brain cancer, but
Mm.
that was one thing where I started writing the book, not originally planning to be a best-selling author,
Yeah.
but I started writing the book after being given a diagnosis that had less than 90 days to live and had a malignant glioblastoma brain tumor, literally lost the ability to communicate. And as I started recovering, I was thinking, doctors had said there is 0% chance of survival with that type of tumor as far as it was along, having 7 to 10 seizures a week. So I started writing the book as basically just a way to have something that my mom could put on the coffee table. I was trying to get it published quick, where she had something to remember me by.
Mm-hmm.
And as it went along, I did treatment in Tijuana, Mexico, some stuff that was not approved in the US, and absolutely wiped out the brain tumor.
Hey, this is a quick shout out from one of our awesome sponsors. Check this out. Thank you to Tracy and her team down at Tranquil Turtle Massage in downtown Coeur d'Alene. My wife and I see her and her team every single month for couples massage, and I'm telling you, it is the best thing ever. She specializes in Hanu infusion, Hanu Ashiatsu, gua sha, and manual lymphatic drainage. If you need a massage to get you feeling good and relaxed, make sure to reach out to Tracy and her team down at Tranquil Turtle Massage. Also mention that I sent you, and you get $25 off your massage package. Also, check out CDA Brows and Body Ink, where Tracy offers the best tattoo brows and plasma fibroblasting tightening with the first ever Aurora Pro Plasma Tighten machine, not a plasma pen. And don't forget to tell Tracy that I sent you to save $100 on your next tattoo brows or plasma tightening. What's going on, guys? I've got M Curtis. You're a motivational speaker, best-selling author, entrepreneur who has started multiple seven-figure companies. You're the founder of Newswire Magazine and so much more, man. Thank you so much for your time. Truly an honor to have you here, man.
Absolutely. Glad to be on your show, Erik.
I'd love to go back a little bit to kick things off. Like, where did you grow up? What was childhood like for you?
Childhood. So I grew up in actually, that's a tough question to start with. I grew up in a pretty rough household where my dad was not a good dude. I know some of your story, and we had kind of a similar experience there with your stepdad.
Yeah.
But grew up in Craig, Colorado, and moved up here for college in 2000, as soon as I could in 2000, and up into Westminster, Colorado, and now I'm living in Grand Junction.
Gotcha. And for those, like, when you're growing up, like, who are those entrepreneurs or people that influenced you early on to go the route that you've gone today with your business?
And so I had one of the things growing up with the way I did with my dad, just being, literally put a pistol in my mouth. It gave me a pistol after he'd been beating on me for hours and handed me a loaded pistol, told me to do the world a favor, meaning commit suicide. And so I grew up with, not a real good example of what to be as a man. Yeah. But actually at 13 years old, I started to run away during lunchtime. I'd sneak out, once every week or two, and sneak out of the school lunchroom, and I'd take off and I'd run to the local, there's a used bookstore. And so I was saving up my lunch money. I'd get $1.75 a day for school lunch. That's back when it was cheap.
Yeah.
I could spend 25 cents on a cup of Jell-O, save the other $1.50. And so I'd put that aside in an envelope in my locker. And then I started sneaking away. The first time I ran to this used bookstore, and I bought, just going down asking, hey, how do I, just trying to figure out how to be a good person.
Yeah.
I don't remember the conversation, but I know I was asking, I just want to figure out how to not be a loser when I grew up, kind of thing. And so at the bookstore, I've actually still got the original book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Come on.
By Dale Carnegie. But I went down there, I was just asking, how do I become a good person? How do I become somebody that people like? How do I learn to treat people good? And that was one of the first books that they recommended was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Yeah. And I got hooked on it from then, as a 13-year-old kid reading that. So I started reading everything from, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, the 5 Love Languages, any book you could think of over the next 20 plus years. I just read and studied like crazy, trying to figure out, at first it was just how to not be a dirtbag. But as I went on, it was sales skills, leadership skills, public speaking skills, different things like that. So most of my good influence there came from books early on.
Mm-hmm.
And when we'd get time, when we'd be able to go visit my mom, my dad had custody of us, did not want us, but he was, it was kind of the way that he could hurt my mom was to keep her away from us. So when we'd get a chance to go visit her, she was doing, at the time was Amway Quick Star.
Okay. Yep.
So
my family did that as well.
Nice. Took me and my little brother, and 13, took me down to the thrift shop, and we bought my first suit and tie, and got my little brother all dressed up, and we'd go to these motivational conferences, the Amway conferences, and hear guys like Les Brown and some of these different, just incredible speakers coming.
Yeah.
And so I started looking at that age, going, and there's a different thing that I could be in life. I don't have to grow up where, that saying, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Sure.
When I don't have to be the same guy that my dad taught me I was going to be, and I didn't have to be that same person that I was thinking I was going to be. So that was probably the big defining moment really early on there.
Yeah. Man, I mean, and since all of this has gone down, you've started multiple seven-figure businesses prior to buying Newswire in 2018. For those who don't know, what is Newswire magazine? What's the mission there? I'm a huge fan. Obviously, I was had the honor of being on the cover of the recent cover that just dropped, or article that just dropped, and so really just truly an honor to have you on the show. But for those who don't know, what is Newswire magazine? What's this mission that you're trying to accomplish with this thing?
Well, and first off, congratulations on your article. I just pulled it up on the screen here. You've got almost 15,000 readers already. Your article's only been live for a few days here, but you have almost awesome. 15,000 readers. 133 people have liked your post on Facebook. So that's basically what we do is we highlight entrepreneurs, motivational speakers, podcast hosts, authors, people who are crushing it in life and business. And Newswire didn't actually start as a magazine. The company launched in 1997 as a press release distribution company. So basically existed where you've probably submitted press releases where you write an article, a news, some type of newsworthy article, submit that, and then the press release company submits that to magazines, newspapers, TV, radio, whatever, trying to get your story out there. So I bought the company in 2018, and then about February of this year, I woke up in the middle of the night, jumped up thinking, we've been doing all the hard work, not making a lot of money and doing all the crazy work, taking these great stories, filtering out the best content and sending that over to media outlets to let them publish these stories. So I called my developer, middle of the night. He's overseas. He works over near Mumbai, India, but he's been working for me for like 10 years. I called Susanthar and I'm going, hey, what would it take? What kind of an investment? What would it take to build out a digital publication that's not just there's all kinds of magazines where it's like basically a blog.
Sure.
But I was going, we don't want to have a blog that's just a fake, call it a magazine. What would it take to actually launch a digital publication that's syndicated to thousands of platforms all over the internet? Need instant RSS, XML syndication. And I wanted to basically gamify the system so that when people, like when your article is published, every time that article is shared, every time a website links into it, any traffic that comes, every reader that comes to that article helps boost the article higher in the ranking among the other articles. And so that was part of it, was gamifying that share system so that when people get featured in an article, you got an entrepreneur that shares a great story. Now, if they're incentivized to start sharing that on social media and stuff, that helps not only the entrepreneur, but also every other person in the magazine who's got their story shared. But
yeah.
Just been incredible we've got hundreds of thousands of readers already since July that are on here daily.
Wow. I mean, you've obviously had success in the business side and financial side of things, but what is it that drives you to be successful today at this point in your career?
So I spent years chasing the dollar, like with the telecom company and the pharmaceutical company, all these businesses, where just working insane hours, 80 to 112 hours a week, and miserable. No free time, no friends, nobody to hang out with, just all that time dedicated to working. And I had a few times where, it ended up with a couple of bankruptcies, actually one bankruptcy and different companies closing and stuff, where chasing that dollar and making, there's times where daily I was making what a friend was making in a month. But to realize that can be taken away at any time. But also, once you learn how to make the money, you can always make it back. So now I basically started focusing more on just being happy. I'm getting to go around and do some speaking, just, launch the magazine. That was kind of a hobby that took a pretty good investment, but just focusing on being happy and trying to contribute, do something back, where I'm giving back to the world instead of just chasing that dollar, trying to look successful.
So important to spend time making an impact versus chasing that dollar. I have done that many times. I filed bankruptcy at 21 years old for sure. Cause I was just dumb and making financial mistakes at the time there. Like I mentioned earlier, you're a best-selling author, and one of your books is How to Be Successful, Think Like a Leader. It's a book where you share stories and conversations that you had with entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of great knowledge in this book. But was there a common theme among the entrepreneurs that you spoke to, and what was the most important thing that you learned out of that?
Yeah, so and I don't know if you knew that I survived brain cancer, but that was one thing where I started writing the book, not originally planning to be a best-selling authur, but I started writing the book after being given a diagnosis that I had less than 90 days to live, and had a malignant glioblastoma brain tumor, literally lost the ability to communicate. And as I started recovering, I was thinking, doctors had said there is 0% chance of survival with that type of tumor as far as it was along, having 7 to 10 seizures a week. So I started writing the book as basically just a way to have something that my mom could put on the coffee table. I was trying to get it published quick, where she had something to remember me by. And as it went along, I did treatment in Tijuana, Mexico, some stuff that was not approved in the US, and absolutely wiped out the brain tumor. You can tell right now talking to me, I've still got a little bit of difficulty communicating with, memory and some of those kind of things.
Sure.
But started writing that book just to leave a memory. But I was thinking, I reached out to some of these leaders that as a kid, I looked up to people like this. One of the guys, the guy that invented the MP3 player, did an interview in here. Okay. He was one of the very first people that I reached out to. I didn't tell anybody that I was writing the book, that I had brain cancer, that was the reason I was writing the book. I just said, "Hey, listen, I'm a huge fan. I've studied you for years. I'd love to have you share some insight." And so I got to interview all these really cool people. Jeff Wobig, Navy SEAL Team Sniper, SEAL Team 5, SEAL Team 7, a couple of leaders of churches. But one of the things between the guys that were all pretty similar, another guy's an ex-convict who turned his life around. He's now very successful, but spent time in prison. But all of these guys, all of them have the same, they've all gone through some terrible stuff, but almost all of them had that same thing where it's not what happens to you, but it's what you learn from it and what you make of yourself afterwards.
Hey, this is a quick shout out from one of our awesome sponsors. Check this out. Look, I wanted to tell you about a company I've been working with. They are amazing. If you are a podcaster, a motivational speaker, or a podcast host, and you're absolutely crushing it, you need to be featured in Newswire Magazine. Newswire Magazine is a cutting-edge business publication that shares stories of entrepreneurs, business leaders, and other high achievers who are crushing it in life and in business. It's the preeminent publication for entrepreneurs who are making a tremendous impact. Every article is seen by thousands of readers daily, so being featured in the magazine is a massive personal branding opportunity. Not only will you get massive traffic and SEO benefit from being featured in Newswire Magazine, but you'll also get instant credibility and authority. See if you qualify to be featured in Newswire Magazine today. Yeah.
And then another common theme with the guys was there's a huge percentage of them are Christian guys. So as I'm writing the book, I was thinking, it's titled How to Be Successful, Think Like a Leader, but people buy it. And whether or not you're a Christian, you're getting a little bit of Jesus in the book. So people are quoting scriptures and just giving their insights of, their relationship with God and stuff like that.
Man, oh, that's awesome. And you and I, we have this shared faith in Jesus. And would you mind sharing your testimony, or how did you come to know Jesus, man?
So I grew up, like I said, with my mom is just an incredible person. She was Christian. My dad was not the best example, not a Christian. He was, went to Mormon church. But so I spent a lot of time as a kid where, because the judge and the county sheriff was Mormon, my dad, we were pretty religious about going to Mormon church, to put on that front.
Yeah.
but I spent a lot of time. I went through 4 years of Mormon seminary, but I spent a lot of time sitting out in the hallway, kicked out because I'm asking the teacher a question about, as I'm reading the Bible, and teacher's teaching us something about, the Book of Mormon or whatever. I'm reading that, going, that's not what I'm reading here in the Bible. And so as I was studying the Bible and stuff, it was just really helped a lot to get that, get that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it gave me a reason to start studying and stuff. But then I built a relationship with God real early on. And from the time I was 12, 13, I was praying every single day, just trying to connect and have that talk with God.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you there was a defining moment where it was like, I went from not believing to believing or something. It was just, sure. I always knew that the God was real. I always knew that he loved me. I didn't know that. I knew that he loved everybody. I didn't know that he loved me. I just had no self-esteem or whatever, but.
Man, that's so good, dude. And Jesus is good, man. He puts us right where we need us to be at a lot, throughout our life, man. And the world is changing so much. We're in this digital world. Everyone's got their phones in their faces. And I think that there's a new generation of folks that they really struggle to have legit, real conversations with an actual person face to face. And you wrote a book on this, but how can people be better conversationalists?
I did write a book on this. I still need work on it. One of the biggest things is just listening with actual concern for what a person's saying. Yeah. That's probably the most important thing that I can tell you is if you're trying to figure out how to be more interesting, first off, do something interesting. Don't expect people to be interested in you just because you exist, but do something interesting, but then also stop telling people so much about yourself. If you just get in, start a conversation, start asking questions like you get to with the podcast. We're asking questions, drawing people out. By the time somebody gets done with the show, they love you because you've asked all these incredible questions. And it's the same type of thing with the conversation where if you just listen and truly care about what people are saying, that'll help you a lot.
So good, man. I'm just a huge fan of just networking and just listening to people's stories. I'm fascinated with people's stories, man. And I think just if we're able to share our stories out, it will help so many people. Even if it's just one person gets impacted by a story, man, that's huge. And that's really the goal about this podcast is sharing stories of people who have gone through just yuck and they've gone through it. And now here they are, they're impacting lives through their own projects and businesses and podcasts and things like that. Interesting question I always ask. What do you think the greatest skill a human can have is?
I don't know that I could narrow that down to a single skill. I think the desire to continue learning. So kind of like in the Bible when, he asked for wisdom, God said you can have anything you want. And he asked for wisdom, became the most powerful, wealthiest man in history. That's, I would say, not a skill, but just desiring to continue to learn. You can perfect or at least get a lot better at anything you decide to get better at.
Yeah. Man, it's all about putting in the time, I think. And, if you build those habits and you build the standards that are around your values and your beliefs, then you can't get swayed off of that. Right. I mean, it's about getting on, getting back on track. We all have days where we don't want to wake up early or whatnot, but if you have those standards and those values, I think that's what helps people keep on track towards their goals, their dreams and their purpose, things like that. How are you doing health-wise now? Like you had the brain tumor, everything seems to be going good. How's everything going now for you?
I've still had some, I've gone through back and forth and some different things here, where I'm working on it. Yeah. You can tell right now, this is probably not the best day to be doing a podcast. I had a pretty messed up, high and low sugars here. And, thought I was going to have a seizure earlier, dropped down real low. So I'm probably not communicating real clearly, but
you're doing fine, man. You're doing fine.
Yeah. Any of your listeners, that's a good excuse. If I sound like an idiot or if I'm rambling, that's at least
man,
I've got
you're doing awesome. I love just people being raw and real. And that's what this is all about. I don't do any editing throughout the show, man. I don't take the stuff out because it's just this real conversation. The reason I ask that is because it kind of leads up to another question I like to ask people is, and you've already gone through this question. Like you already found out, like at one point they were telling you, hey, you've got 90 days to live. Now that you're doing better, if you had 1 year left to live in this life, what would you go and do?
That's another good question. So I've had because of that opportunity back in 2010, saying you got 60 to 90 days to live, guaranteed zero chance of survival. Back then I was young enough that it still didn't, I still thought I needed to be successful. And so as soon as I got back, we went to Mexico, started doing these treatments, trying to figure out how to, make it longer than 90 days. Figured, heck, if I could get 2 years, I'll be good. But my goal back then was to launch a successful company where I could, launch another successful company where I could buy my mom the house. And, she'd always wanted a barrel racing, like a racehorse, tattooed racehorse. And so I had the goal of making that money. That's been 12 years ago now. But if I go back again, if I was given 60 to 90 days to live again today, I wouldn't spend that building another company. I would probably just put, I transfer the companies off, make it where they could manage themselves, make sure that they're my mom's name so she's got the coverage. But I would spend more time just speaking to folks. I mean, high schools, every public speaking event, everything I could possibly do to be able to connect with people would be not only sharing Jesus, sharing where we're going when you're done, but also helping people with that lack of self-confidence, lack of self-esteem, just letting people know that you are better than you're better than you realize you are. I spoke at a small event this morning and getting to tell people, everybody's got this. We've all dealt with crap, whether it was being abused as a kid, whether it was being, some kid's been raped or molested, there's just all kinds of crazy stuff. Spouse abusing them, maybe a kid at school picking on you and telling you you're a loser, a teacher telling you you're never going to be successful. But we've all got that feeling that maybe I'm not good enough, that imposter syndrome, to where when you start becoming successful, you get that little voice in your head that's telling you, well, who do you think you are, Erik? Do you really think you'd be running a successful podcast? Deal with those kind of things. And so I would just make that a point to where, like I am now, speaking to everybody I possibly can, let them know you're better than you think you are, and you were created in the image of the God that created the entire universe. He created you in his image. So by default, you're incredible.
Come on, man. That's awesome. I love that. Your mindset on that, man, is so good. And your story, man, and just getting out there and talking, even if it's a small group or big group. I mean, I think you made a post on this, like you get more comfortable speaking in those larger groups than you do with 4 or 5 people. Yeah. And I think it's so true. Like, I'm okay with, speaking in larger groups, and then you get into smaller groups, 4 or 5 people, maybe you're not really familiar with them. It can get nerve wracking for sure up there.
Yeah.
As we head into 2023, what are you most excited about? What's on the horizon for you? What's coming up next for you?
So, like I said, I always had that, after 2010 with the brain cancer and stumbling over my words and not being able to remember what I was talking about.
Yeah.
I loved inspiring and uplifting and encouraging people. And when I owned the retail stores, I loved our team meetings and stuff. I only owned 3 stores, but we had employees all over the country, different licensees and stuff. But that was my very favorite thing, was to get on a Zoom call, or when we'd have all the stores, have our employees meet up and we're doing a team dinner or something. I love that, being able to encourage and uplift people. And I figured, okay, my employees know this guy survived brain cancer. He's trips over his words sometimes.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit more comfortable there, and I was writing their paycheck, so they couldn't really judge me too much. But just getting that confidence to where I'm able to speak on stages, Caesar's Palace and some of these bigger stages. It has been a huge thing to be able to start encouraging and uplifting people. But that's what I'm going to do in 2023 is I am focused hugely on starting to get into high schools, colleges, different things to speak. I've got a few events already scheduled for December of this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, just going to keep focusing more on, I've still got to keep running Newswire magazine, keep growing that, helping people share their stories. That's a big thing. But then also just taking more time to encourage and uplift. And even if I made no money speaking, it's awesome to be able to just get out and connect and inspire people a little bit.
Oh, it's so impactful. I wish that we had more speakers come into the high school that I went to. Now, I don't know if I was in the right mindset at the time to give them a listen, but looking back, I'm like, there was no speakers that came through at all. They didn't try to get us. I know I was a big druggie in high school, so but like not that one speaker would have come in and changed that, but it's possible they might have, you know. So like
Yep.
you could come in there and you could rock somebody's world, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome that you've got that on the horizon for you to get out there and
Yep.
speak more. You're such a world changer, man. In your
Appreciate you.
story, yeah, dude. And I think just the way that you communicate, the way that you bring stuff to the table in just real raw communication, that's what hits home for a lot of people, man. So I just want to applaud you, man, because I'm proud of you. I'm honored to have you on my show, man. You're an absolute world changer, like I said. I want to get into a fun question real quick because I'm a big music guy, and love to ask the question like, what type of music do you listen to? What's a favorite band for you?
So I play lead guitar.
Okay.
I have not. I've been so busy with Newswire magazine and building out this new publication. I have not turned on a radio in. I could not tell you how long. When I get on the motorcycle, the Bluetooth. I got the Bluetooth helmet.
Yep.
I'm listening to a podcast or an audiobook. When I get in the car, automatically the car connects and it's playing me an audiobook. Every time that I'm listening to anything, it's if I sit down at night. I've got the Netflix thing. So, if we're doing a movie night or something, I'll watch Netflix. But at night, I'm either reading a book or I'm watching a YouTube video or something to grow. So I probably should take some time to listen to some music and enjoy life a little bit like we were talking about. But what about you? What's your favorite song or band?
For me, my favorite band of all time is the Cars, actually. So I'm a big fan of the Cars, but I used to be straight metalhead, back in high school, and I still like to go back to that. But like, I'm all over the place now. Yesterday I was jamming to Tupac, some of his greatest hits. Like, I'm all over the place, man. But for me, I'm such a music guy. Even when I read, I have to have some sort of beats in the background. I listen to just no lyrics, just kind of beats in the back. It helps my brain to really zone in on the book that I'm reading and things like that. And you had mentioned, you read audio, you're listening to audiobooks, you're reading books all the time. Was there a book this year in 2022 that made a big impact for you?
Yeah, there's, I do a ton of audiobooks like the gym and stuff.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of them. This will probably take a minute. Yeah, I've got I don't know. There's so many of them, man. So right now I'm reading Traffic Secrets again by Russell Brunson.
Oh yeah. That's a great book.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, for sure.
The Prayer of Jabez is one I finished again just recently here by Bruce Wilkerson.
Okay.
I don't know if you've read that or not, but
I've heard
that's a book I'd highly recommend. You go through that in a real short time, and I was listening to that at the gym a few times. Just read the book and then listened to the audiobook as I was on the Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah,
that's a miserable machine, by the way.
Totally. Oh, that's awesome. Well, Curtis, again, thank you so much, man, for taking time out of your day. You're an absolute world changer. Such an honor to have you on, man. I'm excited for people to listen to this episode. Thank you so much, man, for taking time. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Erik. Thanks, man.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out the show today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to take a listen or a watch. It's truly an honor to be able to speak with such amazing guests, and I hope that they've made an impact on your life in some way, shape, or form. And you could do me one big favor. That would be huge. Click that subscribe button, and then second favor, hit that share button. Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate you. Keep changing the world. I believe.